See, I'm from Sydney and I'm in Melbourne today. And every time I come to Melbourne, I just find it's such a cool place for creativity and doing art and building and stuff. And in healthcare, I find that the best creations that are made, they come from the providers that are on the ground. They feel the problem firsthand. They have the vision, but they don't know how to create the technology, the solution that might solve the problem. And as a clinician, how do you take this idea that you've got in your head and turn it into reality? A product, a piece of technology that can enter the market. You've got to partner with people who know their stuff, right? And HITORI have been doing this for a long time. A technology agency that's working with a lot of different industries, but more and more so in healthcare. Today I'm here in their studio in Melbourne and chatting with Nicholas Colm, the creative director, CTO and co-founder of HITORI, their agency, and also Kenko, a health tech startup that's spun out of the agency. In this episode we talk about the challenges that clinicians face in trying to get an idea for an app out of their head and into code, overcoming obstacles and finding success in healthcare innovation, and some practical advice for clinicians thinking of building technology. Collaboration starts with a conversation, Team Health Tech. Let's make it happen.
This is Talking Health Tech with me, Peter Birch, featuring content and community about technology in healthcare.
Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me here in this awesome looking office and the great mural. And is there a story behind the mural, or is it just really cool?
It's just a Japanese theme. There's no direct theme at all, but my son's name is Phoenix. So we noticed there's a phoenix on the wall a few years after he was born, ironically.
Oh, right. You had this perfect opportunity just then to say there was the inspiration. But hey, it was fortuitous perhaps. But tell us a bit more about HITORI, what you do. How did we all get here? What's going on?
Yeah, so HITORI, we've been in business for 11 years, or just over 11 years. So I started off as a developer and a designer, working with a lot of enterprise companies. I obviously saw an opening in the market for a lot of enterprise apps. I always wanted to build apps that helped people, helped the community. Started HITORI. We essentially did anything initially, anything that we could get through the door, pay the bills and so forth. And then we found a bit of a niche in the health space. So we were approached by a clinician from Austin Health 7 or 8 years ago now. And we built his first app, which was really cool. It was really, we found a lot of benefit in that. He was on Channel 9 on A Current Affair, I think it was, promoting the app, and he referred us to other people, and we started to find a lot of enjoyment out of building these health apps as well.
That's interesting. So a clinician from within Austin Health. So I think we're going to dive into that point for a little bit here, because often it's a single clinician or someone feeling a problems firsthand in health that gets the inspiration to build some technology. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. So he was the first one that came to us, and we've found everyone ever since. So he's referred us to other people that he knows have had sort of similar qualms, got an idea, how do I bring this to life, so to speak? Yeah. So he's referred us through, and we've built multiple evolutions of, like remote patient monitoring sort of platforms, and sort of tweaked it a little bit, built on that. So yeah, a lot of it does come from inside the healthcare sector, which is good.
Yeah. And it's one thing to say, hey, technology can solve for this particular problem. Maybe firstly, what are some of those problems that you're finding clinicians are wanting to solve with technology first, and then we can actually get into the challenges around implementing that technology?
Or remote patient monitoring is a big one. So a lot of the time, patients, they might have a stent, for example, then they have to go home and they have to come back in multiple times to get their blood pressure taken and simple checkups. So a lot of the innovation came out of not needing to waste time doing these kind of things. The patient can take their own blood pressure and submit it through the app. The clinician can view it from the hospital. And then on top of that, it frees up clinicians to do other things more beneficial with their time. They're all under the pump. They're all burnt out and tired and exhausted, and they need to focus their time on sort of more important aspects of their job.
And so then, that remote patient monitoring side in particular, thinking about taking away some of that burden on clinicians, allowing them to do things. I would imagine from a patient side too, it gives the potential for more accurate results, given that things happen behind the scenes as opposed to patients, writing stuff down or manually punching things in.
Yeah, exactly. So the very first apps that we built were all very manual. So this is 7 or 8 years ago. So they would have a Bluetooth, or not a Bluetooth device, a manual device. They put it on their arm, they take the reading, they manually enter in the 2 different readings and submit that. But over the years, there's now Bluetooth devices. So out of all these apps that we build, are very, very similar. With a lot of clinicians, they want the same thing. They want patients at home, giving them the data, not having to always have checkups at home. So we've sort of built on that, and we've actually built our own platform out of a lot of the knowledge called Kenko that we've learnt over the last sort of 7 or 8 years. And this uses Bluetooth technology. So we integrate with a wide variety of manufacturers, Omron, A&D, VivaLink, to take blood pressure, weight, temperature, oxygen, and all of that happens through a mobile app that the patient has at home, goes up to the cloud, and the clinician can view that data online. And then on top of that, we've also got automation involved. So when you have a checkup, if your blood pressure is too high, the clinician says, look, it's a little bit too high, do A, B, and C to get it down. So our automation does all of that. So we try to reduce that requirement for clinicians to do the manual checkups and to provide routine recommendations on how to improve your health.
This all sounds good in theory and conceptually, when you're building these type of solutions or thinking about, hey, an app could really solve for this problem. It's one thing taking this idea and then even once it's built and then actually plugging it into the healthcare system. What are those kind of challenges you've seen about you got this really good looking app or system, then you've got to actually get patients to use it, clinicians to use it. There's hospitals that have, I can't even call some hospitals because they block me from things, let alone getting technology plugged into it.
Yeah, so with our platform, so because clinicians have driven the work through HITORI that we've built, all the bespoke apps that we've built, it's always when the clinicians drive in that process. And a lot of the hurdles that they come across is getting privacy and legal documentation approval to actually use it in the hospital. And then on top of that, IT, so getting a server set up in a hospital amazingly can take a year or 2 just to host the data. So we're trying to remove those 2 major problems and have all of our legal terms and conditions all set. It's the same for everybody. So we've got all HIPAA compliance, we allow FHIR protocols to get the data out into your EMRs or EHRs as well. And then on top of that, again, helping the clinicians say, look, we've got a product now, it's off the shelf, you don't need to do any R&D, you're not building a product, it's not a bespoke build, you don't need to get funding or anything, all you need to do is say, yep, this is a product, it does everything that I want, it does messaging and telehealth as well on top of the readings, so we just want to pay and use this piece of software. So I think a lot of the hurdles are in getting funding to actually do R&D and build a brand new product that they don't know what the outcome may be.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's you're not just exploring to see the potential to create something. There's a specific kind of scope of work that's going to be created. Is it always clinicians that are approaching you to build solutions? Are you finding there's health tech startups that, there might be a non-technical founder, maybe really strong in product or other things, have a vision, but need the technical capability to build
We
stuff?
have had that. So we've worked with a few startups to build e-prescribing systems and online ordering of contraception pills and so forth. So we've built a few platforms like that. We've worked with medicinal cannabis companies to build all the SASB and the TGA requirements. So it does a lot of pulls a lot of data out because they need to obviously go to the TGA to say who's getting these SA sort of medications as well. But a lot of the time from the hospitals and bigger orgs, it is the clinicians with an idea. But on top of that, a lot of it is very specialised. So we're working with an anaesthetist at the moment. So we've done all the wireframe and done the design. And there's so many things in that I'd never heard of the terms in there, or how they work, how they operate, So it needs to be driven by them. We can build the product and we understand the security and a lot of the finer details. But when it comes to the healthcare side, we only know what we know, what we've learned from them.
And the clinical workflow.
Exactly.
Because you dropped, a few of the common terms, the FHIRs, the HL7 standards, and points around e-prescribing. But a lot of this that's a technical problem to solve, but it's the technology side. I imagine the trickier part would be the clinical workflow and then the implementing it in the hospitals.
Yeah. So with the anaesthetist, we spent 3 or 4 weeks just doing the wireframe to get all the screens right, get all the right data, different layers of data, who inputs data, who sort of oversees the input of that data. So there's a lot more on the understanding their processes rather than just doing the design or doing the HIPAA compliance, for example.
And you mentioned that you've gone from, you're obviously continuing to build solutions for clinicians and for clients, but you've also now got your own thing that you've built. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so Kenko means health, very sort of Japanese on theme for me, again with Hitori. But
Stay on brand,
yeah. but it very much came out of all the experiences that we've had over the last 7-8 years. You know, we seem to build, or we built 4 or 5 of the same product over the last 7-8 years, from the very first one that we did with the Austin Health and all the referrals that he's provided. And they all want the same outcomes, just to get patients at home, providing them data, you know, within the hospital or the clinic. And a lot of them face the same issues. So trying to get the initial funding takes sort of a year or 2, and then trying to get that ongoing internal support, you know, to grow the product and support the product. A lot of the clinicians are very busy already, so trying to do a startup on the side or build a platform on the side is, you know, it's a job in itself that they don't have the time to do. So I thought, why don't we just build our own platform out of all these skills and knowledge that we've learned? We'll take it to market, and they could just license and use our product rather than building the same thing over and over. So we've got like a clinical advisory board as such, that, you know, from Austin and the Alfred that we've worked with in the past to give us advice on a lot of the automation aspect. But we're also open to work with other clinicians. So if you have a look at Kenko and there's something missing, some other data point that you need to capture, give us a yell and we can implement that too.
That makes a lot of sense. So, you know, you start to get consistent requests for similar type solutions. There's no point reinventing the wheel every time. If you've got a robust solution that solves for those problems and you can tweak those last couple of %, then that's it's a good outcome for everyone.
That's a plan anyway. And then obviously global. So it's a global issue. You know, the healthcare's, you know, struggling globally. So we all have a blood pressure and oxygen levels that we need monitored so we can release it everywhere.
How do you find that challenge of, you know, there are so many devices? We've talked a lot about software and the platform there to be able to communicate there. There's a lot of like things you strap on your arm and things you plug in to read data, like, and the list is ever growing. How do you keep on top of all of that?
So we're trying to position ourselves a little bit like Strava. So Strava is for fitness. You got, you know, Garmin devices and Polar devices. It doesn't matter what you use. Strava doesn't make their own devices that I know of. So we're a similar approach. We don't stick with a certain manufacturer, and we integrate with a bunch of different manufacturers and get the data in and display the data in the same format to clinicians. So if there's other devices that come on the market, we'll just integrate with those and support a multitude of devices.
Is every single one a different build, or is there some standards they build to? Or?
Yeah, so the devices are all different. So they've got different APIs and SDKs that we need to integrate with, and the data all comes out of the devices differently as well. So we sort of need to read that data in, massage it a little bit, and then display it the same on our graphing in our Fire APIs and so forth.
And I guess it would all just be based on demand, right? Like
exactly.
People say, I need to read off this. So.
Yeah, so if like we do like A&D and Omron and VivaLink devices now, but if there's other ones that need to be integrated, we can integrate with those too.
And where's the sweet spot then? Like the ideal clients from your side, those that you can really solve a problem for right away. There's a lot of people who'll be listening to the show that, you know, have an interest and an aspiration to do something meaningful in healthcare with technology. Who are the type of people who should be reaching out to you?
I mean, well, there's 2 different sides. So there's the Kenko, the startup side, which is, you know, like clinicians in hospitals or regional remote care, Indigenous communities, for example, you know, GP clinics that have longer term patients that might have aged care, elderly care. There's, you know, a wide range on that side. And then on the agency side, where it's more custom stuff, is people that have, like the anaesthetist example, someone that has a very specialized need. They'll see an issue that could be automated or digital transformation, I think they say. So anything along those lines that we can help you, you know, help understand your problem, try to solve that problem. We can do it, you know, with a smaller budget to get an MVP out the door to test the market as such, and then sort of grow with you over the evolution of it.
That's some good advice generally about, you know, not looking to solve all the world's problems in the first build. Get something out there that can do
definitely. I mean, that's one thing that because everyone wants a massive app. They want to do everything in it, but there's no need. Sometimes you're better off just taking a small chunk, solving a small part of your problem, and then doing the next part of your problem, and then growing.
A lastly, then, thinking about the future, then it sounds like you've got a busy agenda on the plate. You're doing the work for as the agency side. You got Kenko as well. What are the main priorities over the next 6, 12, 24 months?
So continue our work with the agency and work with the clients that we've got on board. Any new health tech startups that have ideas, we want to work with them as well, and then on the enterprise stuff as well. But Kenko is launching in May, so we'll get Kenko out the door. We're looking to start a seed round as well to try to help it sort of globally, because we're a fairly smallish team, so if we want to expand everywhere, we need support and growth as well.
Love it. We'll put the details for Hitori and for Kenko in the show notes of the episode for people to check out. It's great to have you guys on as THG Plus members, and we'll get the word out about Kenko and everything else you do. Thank you so much.
Good one. Thank you.
For more content and community about technology and healthcare, visit talkinghealthtech.com.